The last time that I was here was under less auspicious circumstances. In fact, I recall standing somewhere about here doing a television interview relating circumstances that could only be described as horrible. It was the murder of residents and the destruction of homes by arson. It was a dark day on the community. But as I toured the community, it was quite obvious that the area was in need of redevelopment, that people were trying to make their way by informal housing. And I did meet a few young ladies who were involved in all kinds of economic. I'm trying to be very careful with my words, but they were trying to make their way, and many of them lost stock of goods that they had. They were really trying, and though it was a really bad time, I saw an opportunity to rebuild the area. And in discussion with your member of parliament, I suggested that this area could be redeveloped under the new social housing program. Now, the new social housing program has three modalities. The first modality is the single house construction, where we try to assist persons who have no income or no means at all by which to improve their housing circumstances. And their houses are generally agreed that they are below standard. So we have assisted persons living in a tree. We have assisted persons living out of motor vehicles. We have assisted persons living in literally cardboard box houses. So those, we all agree, are people living in the worst of the worst. Then there is the modality of persons who are living in areas that are vulnerable areas by virtue of environmental threats, areas that are at risk of flooding or landslides and so forth. And then there is the third modality, which is the upgrade of tenement yards or big yards. Tenement yards are a Jamaican phenomenon largely, where persons have occupied lands, particularly in urban areas, and it is what you would describe as close quarters living. So the density of occupation is very high, but there is no real structure development. So it's difficult to provide roads, water, sewage. All the amenities for living just simply don't exist. So on a small plot of land, you could have, 10 households, for example, as was the case here, on a plot of land that I would venture to say would be probably a quarter acre, if that much, a little less. It's just a little over a quarter acre. So my estimation was not far off. But to put 10 homes, 10 units, it's still a stretch. Now, the new social housing program does not have any land. So we do not provide lands. The beneficiary has to provide the land. And usually, the beneficiaries have some access to lands. They were already, some of them, living somewhere, but they have to go and get permission to use the land. That is probably the most time-consuming part of the whole project of social housing. Now, the government of Jamaica cannot break its own laws. So we can't go on and build on land that we don't own, or we don't know who owns it, and we have no permission to build on it. The assets that are built on a land follows the land. So who owns the land owns whatever is built on it. So when we build a house on a land, a piece of land, it is the person who holds the title or the lease, long lease, that has the rights to it. And therefore, we must ensure that if we select someone as a beneficiary, that beneficiary must have rights to use the land or own the land outright. In this case, the person who is thought to own the land died shortly after the attack here. In fact, my understanding is that she died as a result of wounds that she would have received in the attack. And we acknowledge her, Mrs. Naomi Gokul. We paid homage to her a little while ago with a moment of silence. But the knowledge of the ownership of the land also passed with her. So it's not quite clear whether or not she owned the land or she had a deed of gift that gave her some kind of entitlement to the land. And so we had to engage a particular kind of process that would secure some rights to the land. And the NLA would have had to apply for general administration of the estate through the Land Administration and Management Division. That is another long process in itself. And we had to declare this area as a project area under a provision of the Registration of Titles, Cadastral Mapping and Tenure Clarification Special Provisions Act. All kind of legal things that we had to go through. And that would allow for this area to benefit from a waiver of subdivision fees and of fees, other fees that are associated with the property taxes in this area. So we had to do all kinds of things to comply with the law. It took us 2 years, from 2023 to now, to be able to stand here and do this. The public looking on, and those who are not aware of the circumstances, may say, look how long you come here and announce that we're going to do this. We're going to build these 10 units. And see, nothing not done. And I get this very often as a politician having to speak to people because there's always in the minds of people that you see you come and make promise and you don't fulfill it. I would have loved to be able to do it with the snap of a finger. But between the commitment and to perfect all the steps, there is a certain period of time that we have to just pay respect to and ensure that the process is followed. And it is important that that is done. Because if it is not done, the government could have very well invested $105 million here to build 10 units, and somebody could come and produce a title with their lawyer and go to court and say the government violated my property rights, take over the land that I own, to the title here. And no matter what you feel, a court of law would only have to examine the fact. They can't go behind the title. So there is a reason why we have to make sure we perfect the steps. Even though it would mean that you would be displaced and you would have to be living in uncomfortable circumstances for those 2 years. But you will be able to occupy this property in perpetuity without any worry that anyone else could come and claim the property. So we are here today because we have followed the process through and through. And we are satisfied that we are on firm ground in being able to build on this piece of property without contest, and you will be secure in the homes that you are getting. Now, quickly, there are 10 households here. I don't have the details. I believe there are 38 inhabitants, 38 persons who will benefit from this in 10 households. And what we will have is 4 2-bedroom units, 6 3-bedroom units. So it's not a small development. I leave it up to the architect to tell us how she's going to fit everybody on the property. But she has done an amazing job so far. This is now the 3rd or 4th, 5th one that we're doing. The 7th, see, I'm losing count. Now the 7th big yard transformation that we are doing. And the people there seem to be fairly comfortable. They're doing fairly well. Now, when you get your house, that's not the end of the responsibility for those who will be the beneficiaries. There's a social contract that we ask you to sign, and the permanent secretary went through the terms of it. One of the terms of the social contract is that you will continue to be upstanding and positive members of your community. I want to say this to all the people who are listening, who are here observing. The government can't bring peace to your community. The government can't create peace in your community. It is you who must become the wardens of peace in your community. Don't tell me that your community is violent and there is crime there because the youths don't have any work. Don't tell me that the community is violent because there is no infrastructure. Don't tell me that the community is violent because the youth them hungry. What of the many other communities and many other young men and women who are not working, who don't have any food, who live in poor circumstances too, and them no make no problem? What happened to those people who say, if I don't have it, I'm not going to steal it from anyone else. I'm not going to kill anyone else. Why should we make an exception for you who decide to go and burn down the people them house and kill the people and destroy the stock of the same people in the same community who do them little hustling? Because one of the young ladies, I'll never forget it, she asked me to buy back her stock that the criminals had destroyed. Because that was what she did as her little hustling. Sell little back juice and all kind of things. Think about it. The people who make your community at war, who break the peace in the community, out of the 200 people who may live in this area, maybe 3 if so much. Why should the rest of the 197 have to live in grill and under bed and can't enjoy them life because of 3 or 4 or 5 bad eggs? Think about it. It is time that we get rid of the bad eggs out of our society. They are preventing us from enjoying peace. Think about it. And I'm looking at the faces and some people saying, am I a bad egg? Well, the point of fact is, you have to ask yourself that question. Are you contributing to the peace or are you destroying the peace? And the society has to reckon with that. We have to come to an understanding that is either you holding the peace or you're destroying the peace. We can't go and make this kind of investment here only to have some people come and destroy the peace and mash up what we build. No, we must stop it and once and for all put an end to it. And that is what we have been doing. This place, when I came here 2 years ago, I went home and I was distressed. Your member of parliament called me every minute about the violence here and the shooting. And we sat down and we said, all right, we have to find a solution. We invested in a little police post, changed policing strategy, and it is having an effect. But that is not peace. This is when you don't have the police post there and people just live in harmony. Like many communities across Jamaica who you never hear of. Never hear of those communities. They don't have no police post up there. But people just live good with each other. And that is where we want to go with Jamaica. When we build this unit, I want everybody to live good with each other, to become an example of positive living. So I say it very clearly. We are at an inflection point in our society. Things are changing. We have changed the risk-reward function for crime. Before, criminals felt that there was no risk being involved in crime. Today, every criminal knows that you're taking a big risk to be involved in crime. And that risk of being involved in crime is going to become greater and greater and greater. Every day you see it on your TV, on your radio. All of them who are plot, are bringing gun, are make call from overseas, a program man from jail. We're going to put a stop to it. We're going to put a stop to it. We're going to fine you and we're going to deal with you as you deserve to be dealt with. Justice will be served to you. And I can't be any clearer with it. So all our youngsters here listening to me now, put that in your mind and understand that this is a different Jamaica than the Jamaica that you grew up in 10 years before. It's not the same Jamaica. If you commit a crime, even if you don't get catch today or tomorrow, we will find you. Very serious. We are not going to allow the 1% to hold hostage everybody else. Not going to allow it. So, my friends, this is a housing program. It will enhance the lives of the 38 individuals, the 10 households that live here. They will feel better for it. I expect that they will use it well to ensure that their children do well in school, to break intergenerational poverty. But when I come back here 2 years after it's open, I don't want to see the place look mash up and man all over and people afraid to come in and all kind of screw-faced man about the place and it just look like a war zone. No, we must make this be the pride of Gregory Park. We must make this be the place where everybody else know what? I am going to pattern this community. That is what we want to do. We want it to be an example. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us go break ground for this wonderful development in this area. A new Jamaica is taking shape right in front of your very eyes.